Questions on an answer to an urgent question asked in the House of Commons on Monday the 18th of December on support for Jimmy Lai.
Lords, I too, like Ian Duncan Smith, welcome the change of rhetoric by the Foreign Secretary, who said yesterday that Jimmy Lai is a British citizen and called on the Chinese government to release him. And as Catherine West said, she hoped the Foreign Secretary's intervention won't be a one-off and that we will continue to stand up for Jimmy in a sustained way and maintain also, I hope, effective communication regularly with his family. Does the Noble Lord, the Minister, agree that, and I know he won't mention specific designations, but does he not agree that more use of the Magnitsky sanctions is really important? And also, isn't there a clear need for a cross-departmental China strategy to ensure that we can be effective in challenging China in these horrendous human rights abuses?
Yeah. Very good.
I thank the Noble Lord for his words. And on his first point about the Magnitsky measures that were included into the Sanctions and Money Laundering Act, I was involved in that process. They are robust and they stack up with similar measures that have been brought into so many countries through the hard work of a great many people, but particularly Bill Browder. And they have applications right across the civilized world against acts of human rights, gross human rights abuse. But we will continue to consider designations under the global human rights sanctions regulations. We don't speculate about those, and it's quite right that we don't. On the 6th of July 2020, the then Foreign Secretary announced the global human rights sanctions regime, allowing the UK to target human rights violators directly for the first time. The Noble Lord also asked about our China strategy. I'd refer him to the Integrated Review Refresh, which has a very clearly set out approach to China to protect, align and engage, examples of which are under protection, the National Security Investment Act, removing surveillance equipment from sensitive government sites, banning TikTok on government devices. Examples under alignment, deepening cooperation with core allies and a broader group of partners, G7 leaders and the like, and on engagement, strengthening contact with China. We invited them to the AI Safety Summit. We deliver messages on those occasions on human rights, and we press China not to support Russia, and we will continue that kind of engagement, which we think is the right approach, and it's all set out in the integrated review.
The Noble Lord, Lord Collins, said it is good to hear that the Foreign Secretary is supporting the rights of Jimmy Lai. But could the Minister tell the House what His Majesty's government is actually doing in practical terms to try and re-engage China on the Sino-British agreement? Because in the other place yesterday, the Minister of State, Anne-Marie Trevelyan, simply said that the breaching of the Sino-British joint declaration is a great tragedy. That sounds a little bit like hand-wringing. Is any more being done?
The Sino-British declaration is a bilateral agreement registered with the United Nations. It is absolutely vital that we continue to raise it when we think that it is being abused, when it is being measures are being taken that are not in keeping with it or the values that underpin it. And we do so regularly, and I have a list of times here that I don't have time to relate to the House, of when we have raised these issues and how we continue to raise them both bilaterally and multilaterally. I entirely agree with the Noble Baroness that words are just that, just words. But the actions one can take when one side of a party is failing to sustain a bilateral agreement is very difficult, but we will continue to find all methods to raise the importance of this declaration.
I draw attention to my non-financial interests in the register. I know Jimmy Lai and his family personally, and with Baroness Kennedy of the Shores and sanctioned by the Chinese Communist Party. My Lords, isn't this Stalinesque show, this show trial of Jimmy Lai, a moment of reckoning for all who claim that they value the rule of law, human rights, press freedom and democracy? Isn't it a moment of reckoning for the duplicitous belief that you can deepen trade deals while the United Kingdom has citizens and 1,762 political prisoners are incarcerated in Hong Kong jails? In calling for Mr Lai's immediate and unconditional release, can the Noble Lord the Minister say what practical steps we're giving him and his family, whether we intend to respond robustly if other United Kingdom citizens are caught in this CCP spider's web, and why we aren't sanctioning those responsible, as the Noble Lord Collins has said, but what more are we going to do to expose this charade and travesty of a sham show trial that makes mock of justice and the rule of law?
I thank the Noble Lord for what he and others have done and for their involvement with organisations like Hong Kong Watch. It is exactly as he describes, and he asks what the government are doing to support Jimmy Lai and his family. We have met Sebastian Lai, as I know the Noble Lord has. We work with Doughty Street Chambers, who are running a very effective international campaign, and we have provided or sought to provide consular access to Jimmy Lai, but that has been refused. And of course the attempt by Jimmy Lai to have a legal support of his choice has also got to the highest court of appeal in Hong Kong and was rejected. And so at every stage we have sought to represent the needs of a British citizen, and we will continue to do so. We will continue to seek to try and get consular access, which has currently been denied by the Hong Kong Prison Service, and we will continue to try and support his family here and around the world, and to make sure that the campaign is as effective as it can be to get Jimmy Lai released.
My Lords, I want to echo what Lord Alton has said about the fake nature of the charges which have been concocted against Jimmy Lai. And many of you will not know the details of this case, but it really is shocking. I am a member of Doughty Street Chambers, and my chambers are involved in the case. And not only are the charges a way of dealing with one of the most eminent business people in Hong Kong, the purpose of it is to threaten and to silence others who are speaking about democracy and the erosions of democracy and the rule of law there. And I am grateful to the new Foreign Secretary for what he's been doing. And I thank the team behind him who are working with him on this. But I do want to say that there are real threats to the legal team, and I wondered what help was being given to the legal team about security. Are they being given advice? Because all of us, I mean, including myself, and I don't know, I mean, Lord Alton, certainly, we've both experienced the business of being sanctioned, but I'm being attacked in cyber ways all the time. I have had the benefit of security advice from this House, but I wonder whether that's happening to the other lawyers who are involved. Is the trial conforming to due process, and do we have observers in the court? And can those of us involved in following this case and campaigning, are we going to be told what is happening during the trial?
I pay enormous tribute to the Noble Baroness for her work. The answer to the latter question is that we have got consular staff attending the court on a daily basis, and they are reporting back on the proceedings. She's right that it is a sham trial. She's right that we need to make sure that we are raising this in every occasion possible, and that we are working with teams of expert lawyers, both nationally and internationally, and that we are supporting him in any way we can. And the Foreign Secretary's response was very robust and very clear, and it will continue to be raised at the highest level, as it has been recently as well, in bilateral meetings with the Chinese government.
My Lords, I too would like to congratulate the Foreign Secretary for a much more robust approach. This, of course, isn't just something that's happening in Hong Kong. It's part of a much wider movement right across China, where not only human rights but also religious rights are being denied, churches are being knocked down, pastors are being arrested, And of course, most notoriously at all, the Uyghur peoples are, many people would argue there's a genocide going on. So what are we doing with our colleagues internationally to press China in terms of these rights in a consistent, long way, backed up by sanctions?
Right, Reverend Prelate. The Sino-British Joint Declaration is an internationally registered, legally binding treaty between the UK and China, and under this, China committed to uphold Hong Kong's high degree of autonomy and protect the rights and freedoms of its people. This explicitly includes the freedom of expression and freedom of religion or belief. That is why we need to make sure this declaration is upheld.
My Lords, I declare my position as co-chair of the All-Party Parliamentary Group in Hong Kong. Now, one of the member of the international legal team, which, as the Noble Lord the Minister said, had been denied the right to represent Mr Lai, Jonathan Price, said the rule of law is eroded in Hong Kong, and I think that's very evident to all of us. Is the government taking sufficient steps to warn British business who is engaged in Hong Kong or considering engaging in Hong Kong about the fact that there is not the rule of law there? And is the government taking sufficient account of the fact that a number of British businesses, notably banks, have very much been seen to be cozying up to the Chinese regime, the regime in Hong Kong? And is that something the government's concerned about and prepared to take action on?
The Foreign Office makes very clear about the rules that should abide all companies when they're doing business in different parts of the world, and access and travel, of course. We believe that trade, and the right kind of trade with China and with Hong Kong is right. It is a good way of engaging with a country, and it is a good way of using those occasions to make sure we're making the points about human rights. And of course, we have very strict rules in this country which require businesses to declare their supply chains in a whole variety of different ways. And there are rules relating to some of the things that the Noble Baroness talks about, which are covered by that. But what's really important is that we focus on the case of Jimmy Lai, and recognising that it's not just him, but it's others. And this is a human rights issue, and it's one that the government take very seriously, and we want to see resolved very soon.